Hello everyone and welcome back to this part 2 of Bomberman tutorial. In the last part we went over how to interact with the Unity interface, how to create a player that moves according to physics, and in this video we're going to add a tile map and create our level. So first of all, we're going to need a couple of Unity packages. In order to add them we go to Package Manager, we go to My Assets. These are the two assets that we need, and if you don't have them, I'll leave links in the description. You can grab them from the asset store here. This one will be using for the player and for the tile map, and this one will be used for enemies. So in order to import them, just click import here, import everything. Same thing for this one, import, and we don't need this anymore, so close it. In order to organize everything as usual, we'll create another folder and we will call it third party. And we drag and drop these two assets into there. Now we'll start by creating our tile map. So to do that, it's pretty simple. We go into window, we go into our 2D and tile palette. Here I have one already created, you probably don't, so let me delete this and we'll do it again. Create new tile palette, name it level, for example. Hit create, make sure this is rectangular. Hit create and choose where you want to put it. So I'll add a new folder called tile palettes and we will save it there. Now in order to add assets here, we're going to use this third-party pixel adventure. We're going to terrain and we will add this one that has multiple sprites in it, not the full one. This one has sprite scattered out for us. We drag and drop it here and we will place it in the same folder. It doesn't really matter. So select folder here and you see that we have them. But out of the box you probably notice that we have a problem here. So first of all, let's create a 2D object tile map. It's a rectangular tile map and we will call this one walls. This will be the walls of our level. And if we drag and drop it here, make sure you are using the paint tool. You see that it is too small for our squares. We don't want that. So in order to fix this, it's pretty simple. You go to the one that we just selected. This one. And make sure that for the size pixels per unit, make this 16 as it's mentioned in the name. Click apply, and now if we place something here, you see that it's the correct size. So let's go and draw our level. We'll start from here. We will end somewhere around here. Place something at the bottom too, so for the bottom corners. You can pick any art you want, just this is what I found looking good. And same thing from this side. Now we will draw the rest of the walls on the four sides. Here too. Same thing down here. And from this side. Now I'd like to draw inner walls too, so I'm using this square for that. And we will outline the level like this. We will fix that later. Like that, and let's fix this one. Here. Also, I'd like to add obstacles in the level, so I want to do them every other square. Like this. And continue like that. I'll pause the video until I... Now if you, like me, have put some extra squares here and there, you can keep them like that if you want, or you can delete them just by pressing the erase tool here. erase them simply by clicking on them. Now we have our level there. Let's add the background. So we will create another tile palette, another tile map. Same thing, it's rectangular, and this will be the background. We will create a new tile palette for that. We will call it background. Rectangular, everything is the same. Create. We will create it in the assets folder under tile palettes. And for this one, I'm going to go down here and go to sand, mud, and ice. This one has something good, so we will choose the sliced one. Make sure you don't pick this for one. Drag and drop it into here and select the same folder. It doesn't matter. Well, it creates the tiles there, but it's okay. We won't change the position, so we don't mind that. And as usual, we will set this to 16. Hit apply, and let's get to making our level look better. So this one will be used for corners, down here too, and here. For the outer parts, we're going to use this one on this side, down here too, and from here. Don't mind if you draw over the stones. They are not on the same tile map, and we will change the order of which one is on top of the other later. Now, in order to fill this whole area, just click fill, and this is it. So we don't need this now. Let's close it. And here in the under our grid, let's change the order of this to the way we want it. And you notice if you click on one of them, we have a tile map renderer component. We pick the one for the walls, and we have order in layer. So we'll keep them all on the same layer, but we'll change their order on that layer. So we click one here, and you notice that it pops out. Now this is how we create our level. You can change the size as you want. Now I want to organize our hierarchy a little bit, so right click here, create an empty game object. We'll call this one globals, and I'll create another one, and this will be the game world. Under globals we will place these, and the player and the grid will be placed under game world. This is just for organizing the hierarchy. Now next we're going to add our player, so we don't need this one anymore. Let's delete it. That was just for prototyping. And under my characters we have different ones, so you can see them down here. You can pick anyone you want. For me, I'm going with this one. Everything will be the same. Just make sure that you set the size per pixel here to 32, because that's the size of the player, as you can see in its size. Hit 32, hit apply, and now we will drag our idle animation. You might think we want this. You can do that, but we want to animate the player even when he is standing, so we'll start by dragging the idle animation, expand this one, and select them in order. For this, I'd like to make it small, and select all of them, drag and drop them somewhere in your scene. This will create an animation, so we want to put it under our assets folder. We create a new folder called animations, and in there we'll create another folder called player. It's always good practice to keep everything organized under folders and subfolders. Otherwise, everything will be everywhere and things will get messy pretty quickly. And we will call this player underscore idle. Now, as you see, the player is behind everything else. Let's add it to the game world too. We will rename this to player. And for the ordering layer, it will be set to 2. Now for the position and scale, you notice it's probably a little bit too small, and it's to the side, so let's make this 0, 0. We want always to make things centered in 0, 0. Also, we have our symbols here, the gizmos that we don't like. That one is for the input manager and for the light, so we can hide them from the scene. And like that, we have our player. In order to see how it looks in the game view, you can just drag and drop it somewhere. And yeah, the player is a little too small for my taste. Depends on everyone, whatever you want to do. So let's maybe scale it a little bit, like 1.5, 1.5. Well, it's a little bigger than squares. So another way to do it will be to change these actually to being 16. And I found that making this 0.6 and this 0.6 is a good size for me. Depends also on how you want to make it. These are the values that I found just by trying, so you can do that too. And we will add everything that we had earlier. Now you notice that it has an extra component for animation. It's called animator. We will add our box collider to D, and it automatically gets a size, but we don't want that size exactly, so let's change it. You can click here to change it, and we have for size here, we have 2. We will change that to something like 1.5, 1.5, and we will offset it a little bit by 0.75 minus that. Well, it's still a little off, so maybe 0.5. Yeah, this looks good. We notice something though. The player is moving from its center, but we want its center to be in its feet. So in order to fix that, we go here to idle that we drag the animations from, open sprite editor, and here individually for each sprite, pivot, and we'll set this to bottom center for all of them, like this. We have to do it to every single one, otherwise the animation will be pretty messed up. Center, these ones too, and we're done. Hit apply. Now you'll notice that the collider is a little bit offset, so let's make it go up a little bit, and this looks good. For the player, let's put it somewhere nice, so like 0.5 here and 1 here, in a space that we can clearly see it. Okay, next, what we're going to do is we're going to move it again. So we will add back the components that we had earlier. We had a rigid body 2D. We will set it as earlier, so it has to be dynamic. Everything here is 0. Collision detection will be continuous, and this will be interpolate. We will freeze the Z constraint. And don't forget to add the movement script that we had earlier. We found that this value of 7 will be good here. Let's try to move the player now and see how it goes. And it's not moving. That's because we haven't assigned the references here in the input manager after we deleted the first player. So go to player, drag and drop this one here, and player movement controller on move. Now it will work. But you'll notice that there is no collision yet. So we can move through walls, and that's not what we want. It's happening because we haven't added a collider to the walls. So in order to do that, we go here to wall and add a tile map collider to D. You'll notice that around every one of them, there is now a little collider, but there is also here multiple colliders that are touching each other, and that actually is bad for performance because it's calculating it as multiple colliders. So in order to fix that, Here we have composite operation. We will change this to merge, and we will add a composite collider 2D. Now you see that it's one big collider. Here we don't have anything to change, so minimize that. Also, you notice that there is a rigid body 2D now. It's required for the composite collider. As we don't want the map to move, we will set this to static. And we will save. Let's try to play the game again. And now our player is moving properly. So you notice sometimes it doesn't move. That's because its collider is colliding with those stones. So if I select the player here, you can see that if I stand like that, I can't move even though it's almost close, but the colliders are colliding. So we will fix that through programming later to snap into correct positions. But for now, let's make our camera follow the player because we can go off screen and the player is no longer visible. We don't want that. So first of all, choose a starting position for the camera, and we want to change how much is visible of the lava. That way we can also control the size of the player and the map better. We have here size, so let's change that. Something like this looks good to me. Let's set it to 3.5, and we will select a starting position here by pressing on it. And for the shortcuts to moving, you can either press W, E, and R. W for movement, E for rotation, and R for scaling. Or we have the shortcuts here. You can press on them. So a good starting position I found is somewhere around here. Don't mind the blue on the outside here. We will fix that. So we try to find a good position like -6 on X and 3 on Y. Let's try 2.5. 3 looks better. And in order to change that outer color, you can click here, go to the color picker, and I'd like to make it the same color as that outer green right here, or maybe the color between the walls, like this. Let's see if the green looks better. Yeah, I guess this is better. I want to keep it like that. Everyone, you can pick whatever you want. And now we're going to create a script for the camera to follow that player. So create monobehavior script as earlier, and we'll call this camera tracking. There are other tools in Unity that provide that, like Cinemachine, but this is a beginner tutorial. I'd like to make things as simple as possible. So in order to do that, we will need a reference to the player, or more to the player transform, like to get a special position directly. So in order to do that, private transform, and this will be our player. And we want to set that through the editor, so we will add our decorator here, serialize field, private transform player. For this script, we won't need the start function, so we can delete that. And here we want to follow the player, so transform dot position equals new vector feed. For the x and y coordinates, we want them to be the same as the player, so player dot position dot x and player dot position dot y. For the z, we don't want it to change because the camera is actually 10 units away. We want to keep it as is, so this will be transform dot position. And if we write transform directly, it will just use the transform of the current game object, which is our camera. Here you notice that we have some lines here, depends on your editor, but this is a performance warning because accessing things like that is not practical. We are accessing the position multiple times, so in order to avoid that, we will create a vector tool. We will call it position, and this will be player.transform.position. That the player is actually the transform, so player.position directly, and here we'll just use that position that we have assigned right now. Now let's go and test it. Here we go to the camera, we assign the script to it, and we will add the player here as a reference. Let's try it. For some people, you might notice some shaking here depending on your performance and how everything is set up in your project. In order to avoid that, a simple fix is to move the camera not in update, but actually in late update. This one is triggered after the regular update of scripts and after the physics update, so no shaking, no going back and forth for the camera or any physics object. Also, we don't want the camera to pan too far to the left or up or to any of the sides, so we will limit it to the bounds that we want. For example, on this side, we will limit it to -6 and 3. You'll see how we're going to do that. So, float new x, which is the new x coordinate for the camera, is mathf.clamp. This will clamp the camera position to the values that we want, and we will assign here the position pos.x. We will clamp it between min x and max x values. So in order to assign those, I want to assign them through the editor. So we go here, we create a serialized field. This will be vector2, will be x clamping. This one is x clamp, and another y for y. It's vector2 because it's going to have a minus and a minimum and a maximum. So x clamp dot x and x clamp dot y. So the x will always be between these two values, and we will do the same for the y. Here, the y will be clamped between the minimum value for y clamp and the maximum one. Now, if we go back to the editor, we'll manually assign these values depending on what feels comfortable for us. So for the minimum for the x will be -6. The maximum for the y will be 3. We will try the other positions now. So we go down here. As usual, we want to set it to something that looks good. So 13 here and -6 look pretty good. So for the x, maximum would be 13 and minimum for y would be -6. Let's save this and let's try running the game. So now we're moving the player. Well, it's still not clamping the values, and that's why. That's because we haven't assigned these new values actually. I forgot to add that. So this will be new x and this will be new y. Go back to the editor, wait for it to compile, and let's run this again. You see now that the camera is moving properly, so it stops on the sides and doesn't go further than we want it to. I have noticed that I have a couple of wrong tiles here, so let me go back, fix them really quickly. Window, 2D, tile palette. We want it on the background layer, so I'll choose this one, and here in the scene view, let's fix this. And that's it for this video. We have made a tile palette. We have created our level, added collision to it. We have added collision to the player too, added an animation, and we have added camera tracking. So in the next video, we will fix the snapping problem that we had, and we will get into some more advanced stuff about animations. So until next time, and hit subscribe if you liked it, hit the like button, and see you.